All right, so I want to talk a little bit about garden hoses. And if you're going to buy a garden hose, you should definitely consider this as a factor when you're picking up a hoses. Now, there's generally two kinds of garden hoses. Some are regular garden hoses, and then some garden hoses are called constant pressure garden hoses. And this, for example, is a constant pressure garden hose. This garden hose can be left on all night, all day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all year long. But I'm sure at some point these could fail as well. So keep that in mind. You don't want to leave them on all the time, but if you forget it to shut it off overnight, at least you don't have to worry about the hose bursting in the middle of the night and you dumping out maybe 10,000 gallons of water, which happened to me a couple of times. Maybe not 10,000 gallons, but doubled my water bill basically. And it's not fun when that happens. So when you pick up a garden hose, you definitely want to pick up something that's called constant pressure garden hose. You want it so it's strong enough to be able to, you can leave it on without it worrying about it splitting. The bad thing about constant pressure garden hoses is that they're very stiff, they're very rigid, they tend to curl up and get a twist to them, and eventually it's really hard to get that twist out. But if you keep your garden hoses in order, like I keep up here on a regular basis, generally they're not going to twist up on you. The only thing is when you're dragging a hose around, like in my greenhouse or your garden, it's very hard. It's like dragging around a big electrical cable, and it just starts whacking your plants and breaking things, and they're very hard to work with. So, like in my case, I hung my garden hose up here, so whenever I'm ready to, water my plants, I just pull it down from here, and this length that you see here to the end of the hose pretty much reaches everything in my greenhouse in all directions. I may have to pull one hoop down so I can get to back there. But other than that, I minimize the damage that it does when I have to drag this hose around my greenhouse with all these plants all over the place. It can break plants. And believe me when I tell you, I've snapped some good, cucumber vines and tomato plants that I was growing, just knocked them over, broke branches off, broke tomatoes off. They're very hard to maneuver around inside your greenhouse without it causing damage. This over here, for example, is a regular garden hose. This is not a constant pressure hose. This hose has blown out and split on me a few times. In fact, as you can see right down here, it's ready to blow another nodule right here. You can see how it's twisting and convoluting. It's probably got a tear in some of the fibers, and it's getting ready to blow a hole. And I tend to forget to shut this one off all the time because I'm always using it. But you could also see here how it's starting to belly up over here. Now you can see I put a crimp on it, but it's starting to belly up right there, so it's probably going to burst over there. It's probably going to burst there. I've already fixed it here. You're probably like, why don't you just change the hose? Well, that's $30, $40 for a new hose that I don't want to spend if I don't have to. But unfortunately, these hoses they split very easily. In fact, I have some hose right there that's left over from this one that I cut down. I basically cut it shorter because I didn't need, an 85-foot hose inside here. I just need it long enough to get to the end of my vegetable plants here and be able to maybe reach out to the front in here and water some of my plants in the front. But these hoses are high risk because they blow out on you, and like I say, if they do it overnight and you forget to shut that hose off, you're going to lose a lot of water, and you're going to see your water bill shoot way up. So my recommendation is to spend the extra money, buy a constant pressure garden hose. If you go to Home Depot or Lowe's, they're probably not going to know what you're talking about. So you need to know, and you need to know to look for what kind of hose you want. Okay, you need to look for that constant pressure written on the packaging. You can do it all online first. So if you're going to go to Lowe's, for example, you go to Lowe's first, and then on Lowe's.com, and then look on there and see if you can find out what hoses are constant pressure garden hoses. And then, that way at least you got an idea, on what you're going to buy. All right, so that's my 2 cents on garden hoses. Other than that, now there are other hoses you can buy. There's like I don't think Sears and Roebuck's in business anymore, but I used to buy their black hoses. It's like a rubber type of hose made out of like car tire rubber, and they're very strong. I've used those. I used to be in a plumbing business, so I used to use those hoses to drain down boilers and water heaters, and I needed good hoses. And I used to use those hoses, and they're very strong, and they can take very high temperatures. So you could buy those too if you can still find them. I don't think Sears is in business anymore. But if you can find those, or maybe visit Sears online, you might be able to order online. I'll leave you some links in the description to hoses that I think are pretty good as far as constant pressure garden hoses. And I'll leave you some links to those, and maybe you could pick them up on Amazon. All right, so that's a quick video on constant pressure garden hoses and garden hoses in general. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.